Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Working Hours, an oral history podcast about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours wants to record 1,000 loiners over the course of this, the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. My mission here is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, did during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple and expanding crises during their day-to-day working hours. Can we turn things around? We'll find out. To tell this story, I need loiners like you, dear listener. I need people in Leeds or people from Leeds to come on this podcast and just tell me what they do all day and let me record how this affects us. Thank you for listening. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I believe I wanted to be many different things, but it kind of fluctuated between dancer and detective. Very, very contrasting and nothing like what I'm doing now.
Although I can imagine an 80s TV series with like a dancer who was a detective.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody would buy the rights to that.
That sounds to me like it's a very kind of 70s, 80s influenced kind of career trajectory.
Probably in my head, it was more 1940s. Like I really loved and like, you know, probably growing up playing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego probably influenced that quite a bit. But yeah, always wanted to be like the top female detective.
You're listening to Series 4, Episode 12, and to my guest, Sarah Jayne Young. This is another Zoom interview recorded on the 24th of March, 2023. God, March. That's so long ago now. I have so much to do and so much to catch up on. I know I'm always nagging you for guests, but you're my best bet on getting fresh loiners. If you listen to or have been on the podcast, then you can reach the workers that I can't reach with my naff, disinterested, half-assed social media strategy. I can record at any time on Mondays or weekday evenings at 7 p.m, so get in touch to help me fill as many recording slots as I can till the end of this year. If I can beat the number of recordings I got last year, I will be ecstatic. That's not looking too likely at the minute. Right, so I didn't want to add editorial onto the last one, as I said plenty on episode 90, and I'm still really unsure about adding any commentary at all to these, but I kind of feel like there should be something. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's work, right? Get up, do the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to go off too much. I just wanted to give some info nuggets regarding my last few months. So working 50-hour plus weeks, don't recommend that. It'll put you in hospital. It did me. And I did a little bit of possibly saving someone's life, but mostly it was not having enough time or energy to work on Working Hours episodes, and then not putting anything out for ages, thus killing so much of the growth that I had started to slowly build up. Still, I managed to sneak in a few recordings during that time too, because I am strong like bull. I am also tired like parent or old man. Sarah Jayne Young was always driven to a career in the arts. She went from working in a record store to a record company and then becoming self-employed, producing art shows, managing bands and artists, and touring cabaret shows. It was an industry where she worked 24/7, and as much as she loved it, thrived at it, it was also burning her out. Sarah Jayne felt like something was missing. Fast forward to now, and Sarah Jayne is running Sage Studio. Sarah Jayne has an Ayurveda Diploma with distinction from the Academy of Health and Fitness. She is a level 5 qualified Ayurvedic yoga massage therapist, including pregnancy massage. Sarah Jayne has been practicing Vedic Meditation daily since 2012, and she is currently completing a Chopra Foundation qualification to teach meditation. Sarah Jayne's mantra is to help others and be kind. Through AYM, she will help you feel clarity, rested and relaxed. You can find Sarah Jayne and Sage Studios by going to sagestudiouk.business.site or instagram.com/Sage Ayurvedic. Right, let's do this. Episode 92 of Working Hours with Sarah Jayne Young. So what is it that you are doing now then?
So I'm a massage therapist, and kind of clarify that I'm an Ayurvedic yoga massage therapist, which is, it's a bit of a niche, but it incorporates an Ayurvedic lifestyle, which I lead, into the massage, and yoga stretches into the massage. So use all of those little techniques to combine and balance and heal the body as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. So tell us more about the Ayurvedic lifestyle then. How did you find that, and what does it mean?
Yeah, it's a very in-depth, we could spend hours and hours talking about, but it breaks down to Aya and Veda, and those two words mean life science or science of life. And thousands and thousands of years old. It was an Indian science or knowledge of life, of how to lead it and how to have a balanced body. So it might incorporate like what you eat, how you sleep, what exercise is better for your body. It tells you a lot about your body type, your personality, and there's little routines or rituals that we can incorporate into our daily life to enhance it more, like before bed, like a self massage on your feet, head self massage on your head, bringing oil into the scalp so it nourishes the skin, lets your hair grow better. Scraping the tongue, I think some people have heard of. There's a lot of bacteria that kind of settles in the evening, like while we're asleep, and so starting the day fresh and getting rid of that. I think a lot of people do like oil pulling, which is like a teaspoon of oil in the mouth and swishing it between your teeth. It's an amazing cleanser. And yeah, so there's different things. It's all encompassing. It's such a rich information structure. So yeah, again, we could talk hours, but that's just a mini sample of an Ayurvedic lifestyle. And I was drawn to that because I was in a very highly stressful entertainment industry, and I knew it wasn't sustainable for very much longer, and I was going through a tough time personally, and I reached out to a friend of mine who was a meditation teacher, and she teaches Vedic meditation. So I've been meditating for over 10 years now, and it changed my life very, very quickly. And I think if you talk to most meditators, they will say a very similar thing. There was more joy, I had more energy, and I kind of think it reveals your life purpose as well. So not instantly, but definitely eventually. And so when I decided I wanted a more holistic lifestyle, it was presented, it fell in my lap. I wanted to do massage, and I heard that there was such a thing as Ayurvedic yoga massage. And so here we are.
So it was a kind of combination of, oh, this is an interest I'm pursuing, I want to do some massage as well, and now I can marry the two.
Marry the two, definitely. And it just kind of kept flowing. Like I was like, well, I'm already doing these little rituals that I didn't really understand was part of the Ayurveda. And then I was meditating, and then I learnt Ayurvedic yoga massage, and then I did an Ayurveda diploma. And last year I started training with Deepak Chopra. So I'm this year going to be qualified for meditation teacher. So yeah, it's just kind of like life coming together and all of those beautiful things that you enjoy that is part of my everyday life. I can kind of balance and encompass it together, and that's quite cool.
So what were you doing entertainment industry wise? Were you film,
Yeah.
TV, music?
A bit of everything. Worked for an entertainment well, I'll go back a little bit further. I was in a record store as a young teenager, and from there I went into a record company, and then I started managing bands, producing shows, and kind of then discovered cabaret, and which kind of involves lots of different performing arts. And so I was producing those shows, and yeah, there was lots of joy there, but it was 24/7. Everybody wanted everything yesterday. You know, there would always be like some drama that you had to solve very last minute. It was just constant. And again, like I still kind of keep my fingers in those pies a little bit, but it got too much. But yeah, I went from producing shows to producing art shows, and representing lots of different artists, from filmmakers to visual artists to performing artists to musicians to photographers. So yeah, sort of a bit of everything. But the passion is still there, and I still want to help creative people, but I think that I've come from that in a holistic way, and now I help them by interjecting some holistic lifestyle into their creative world, or healing them, giving them some nurturing and massage to heal the body if they're struggling themselves.
So you kind of come from, you know, supporting them financially and business wise to supporting them spiritually and emotionally.
Well said, Simon. Well said. Like, without even realizing, yes, I knew that was my path, and yeah, still helping, but in a different way.
So setting up for yourself, I mean, I'm guessing this won't have been the first business that you set up, but take us through that journey a little bit. Like, was it quite easy to set up? Were you fine with all of the, you know, all the paperwork and so on and what needed to be done, and it was just a matter of finding clients? Did you already have clients? How did it go?
Yeah, I mean, I think taking that leap from working a 9-to-5 job or a career-based job with, even if you're freelancing or with a corporate company, is very scary. And I mean, I was in my 20s when I first did it. Yeah, it was not having that security of not like, what am I going to do to pay the rent if I don't have that weekly wage? And I was living in Sydney at the time, and I mean, it was an expensive city to live in, and worrying like, can I really do this? And I continued to work part-time jobs, and started producing shows and performing myself. And so I had like little bits of money coming in from all different places. And so at that point I was like, well, it's kind of safe because I could kind of do it. And if it doesn't work, I can go back. Once I became self-employed, that was it. It was just like, you stop worrying about the money and allowing the universe to just provide. And I think if you concentrate on being that creative or the creator, you don't have to be an artist to be a creator. Your business is a creation. And yeah, when it's you, all of it is you. So you learn how to become the accountant, the advertiser, the marketer, the promoter, the creator. And I think that kind of came naturally to me because of my background in doing all of these kind of, so that definitely helped. And, you know, I still to this day try and show others how to do that either free or cheaply and with very, very small amounts of time, so they can focus on their business and what they do as a creator. But yeah, again, yeah, very scary. And, some weeks you're drinking champagne and other weeks you're eating toast. But I think that there's some kind of fun in that when you kind of embrace that. You're like, you know what, this is going to be okay. Yeah, some months might be a struggle, but then some months are going to be amazing. And yeah, I do think that was more based in the entertainment and arts industry of like, woo, big roller coaster. Now for me, I don't know whether it's because I've had almost 20 years being self-employed experience, but I'm not going to lie, like starting a holistic business was out of my comfort zone. And still, of course I've started businesses before being self-employed, but it was completely different for me. And there was that, oh my gosh, is this going to work? But it very much is less of a roller coaster in the holistic industry. For me, anyway, that's my experience. So, some weeks I might only have 5 clients, but some weeks I'll have 20. And, but I don't notice that massive big roller coaster anymore. But if anybody was thinking of becoming self-employed, I would always say, yes, go for it. But just find your vibe, find your support. You might be self-employed, but nobody can do absolutely everything by themselves.
Yeah. I mean, even though it sounds like you were really busy in the kind of entertainment world, but I would imagine there were periods of time, waiting for money to come in and so on, where you've got to learn to budget.
And chasing, I think when you're self-employed, chasing invoices becomes a lot harder, or people don't value you as much as if you had a company name on an invoice. Oh, they can wait. They can wait. Even though, no, they can't wait. They can't afford their groceries because you're not paying that invoice. So yes, it was definitely a struggle. And if I was to help somebody else with their finances, I'm really good at that. But my own, terrible. Is definitely where I have never ever in the 20 whatever years, I've never focused on finances. I'm really bad at it, or my personal ones. I'm good at saving when I want to, but I never liked spending the time on like, oh, I need to budget, oh, I need to work out what's in this account and like, do my tax at the end of the week, so I know that I'm going to be up to date and I don't have to spend a whole week writing out that. So yeah, it's never been my forte. And it really is only recently that I reminded myself that yes, I'm self-employed. I'm really good at what I do. And I can do the marketing. I'm good at the advertising. I'm good at the promotion. I'm good at actually, setting up the actual business. But I looked for a business financial mentor, and that definitely changed my life. I use a Leeds-based self-employed woman, and Agni, Move Forward with Agni. She is incredible, and I thought I knew everything, but the way that she has taught me to budget into spreadsheets and little tricks, I'm just like, mind blown. It's just made my life so much easier. So again, like I think that you do, even if you are working in a company, like finding mentors or finding the financial advisor or a business mentorship, I think it does really change your life, having that support.
Because I think one of the hardest things as well is, there's so many benefits to doing things on your own, but the downside is you're on your own. You haven't got someone to talk to about the stresses, or to worry or to bounce ideas off, or someone to say like, I'll take care of that, you get on with this. Like it's just, oh God, I'll put that off for later, or I'll do this now, or I really need to do this but I don't want to. So do you think it's that kind of thing that's what the mentor brings?
Absolutely. Like, no matter what the mentor's skills are, like you bouncing things off them, you discover your own focus, or like, oh, I didn't think of that. Like, maybe I should look at this path, or maybe I should shift my focus onto that, or, you know, their help might help free up your time to focus more on whatever it is that is not getting that attention within your business. And Agni has definitely provided that, and even just peace of mind. Like, you know, I, for my first self-assessment, and this was, you know, just coming out of COVID, I was freaking out a little bit. I was like, I really, like, you know, Agni, I followed your instructions. I've got all my streamlined spreadsheets, and you know, it's all working for me, but I actually really don't know what to do with that information and that information. And having that guidance from her, it was just like, oh, like I can sleep at night not stressing that I'm not going to get this done in the time 31st of January. So I strongly think that any type of mentorship or advisor can sway you in the right direction, or for time for you to focus on something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good sides to it, and it's kind of like you were saying with supporting other people as well, and being able to sort of, you know, it's so much easier to kind of diagnose for someone else and kind of, you know, focus here, do that, ignore that, do this one now. But when you do it for yourself, you bring yourself and all your nonsense, and like, you know, you can't be that objective. You need someone else to look at it and go, what are you talking about? Do that.
Yeah, and if you look at the entrepreneurs or the higher achievers, they don't keep secrets. They don't kind of do everything themselves. They always have a team, and they always talk about their ideas, because then their ideas actually come to life. And I think that we're conditioned from a young age to like, well, don't share your business ideas because some people steal that, and or don't let those people see what you do behind like the scenes, because you know, they'll take it and use it. So what if they take it and use it? If they're going to do it, then good on them. And I think that, like, if you do what you do well, you've got nothing to fear from other people, other than like not having that support and blossoming into what your potential is. And I strongly believe in any industry, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to somebody else or to another company. It always just should be like, I just need to be better than my yesterday self. Or I just need to compare me to me, so I can grow.
Yeah, like, how did I do that last job? How am I going to do on this job? Is this giving me new things? Am I learning new things? Am I just repeating things? All of those kind of things, which you ask yourself anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that if you have support around you, you're able to hear the answers better, or they can help you with those answers as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go into some of the questions. So we mentioned COVID. It's my normal go-to to start these off. So just to think back through the lockdown and kind of look at your workload, especially sort of going in. Was it just cancel everybody, or was it just ringing everybody and offering support and you were super busy? And what are the things that changed kind of long term from COVID coming out?
Mine was a very interesting experience. I was self-employed, and I was still working in the arts and the entertainment industry and freelancing for a few companies in London. I lost everything. Like, I didn't have any income at all, couldn't get furloughed because obviously I was self-employed. I spent a lot of time reading and learning, and I hate that the word retrain, because I think that it was just like pushed on to like any kind of self-employed, or especially any artist in the early days of COVID, where you have to retrain, you have to start to do something that's necessary, or I can't remember the terminology they used, like a real job. And it's like, well, being an artist is a real job, but so I decided to do a lot of self-discovery in the early days, and I kind of looked at the future for myself, going, well, what if the entertainment industry never returns to what it was before? Which, I think that things evolve, and I'm going to say I know a lot of people struggled in COVID, and I definitely struggled financially, but it was a massive big favor for me, because it definitely made me like relook. And that is when I was like, actually, I want to take a holistic path now. I need to be doing something else. And this is the sign I've been waiting for. So I did all of the theory for my qualifications during lockdown. And then when we came out of lockdown, I started physical courses. And so I did a lot of learning and a lot of research on where I wanted to be and what I wanted to be offering once we were back out into the real world. And I think that COVID showed a lot of people that mental health and well-being is like such a priority that we all put on the back burner for so long. And I think that is a really massive positive thing that came out of COVID, which I see in clients now. They, might be in corporate jobs, but they have definitely like brought that out of COVID of like, yes, it's important for me to look after my body. It's important for me to look after my mental health. I was mid-COVID working remotely on a show, or actually very early COVID, I should say, working on producing a show in Australia at some fringe festivals. And during those productions, I can smile about it now, but it was quite traumatic. I got bullied online, and my show was overthrown or taken over by a handful of people. And so I went through very, very long months of depression and feeling attacked, when all I wanted to do was give to the world joy in a show. And so I think that COVID and being bullied online was a massive big catalyst for me to shift. Coming out of COVID, I kind of thrived in the fact that, yes, it was scary to take on a brand new business coming out of COVID, but I was offering something that I think people really needed. Touch, which is such an amazing healer in itself. But yeah, taking away that stress, fixing those, everybody at home working at a desk, and not their bedrooms. It was not having the movement or the social interaction of an office. So yeah, some really, really stiff necks, really stiff shoulders.
I mean, did it give you time to think, do you think? Was that the kind of space that opened up that was kind of needed for you? Or
yeah, very much so. I had to let go and release to the knowledge that, okay, there is no money coming in. What kind of lifestyle can I lead with absolutely no income? And I spent a lot of time in the garden. I grew some vegetables, fruit. I think this is one of my lockdown. It hasn't fruited, but it's an avocado that I grew.
Nice.
And so I spent a lot of time learning online. Any free course that was on offer, I did it. A lot of time reading, a lot of time in the garden, and a lot of time walking. So yeah, a lot of self-reflection. so yes, it was a massive gift. I mean, it didn't seem like it at the time. Again, because it's modern life. We all worry, how can we afford food? How can we afford a roof over our heads? But yeah, it's a big lesson to like learn how to like, well, it's nothing I can do about it. So what can I do? And again, I think support, it's really important in business and in your life, but I think it kind of, I mean, it might not be for every street, but you found support in that time when you were in that situation. Like, my street were very amazing. We had a WhatsApp group. That one kind of person that was like, right, I'm going to be the shopper today. If anyone need anything, and they would drop it at the front door. I have a bit of a communal garden, and so we would be handing jugs of cocktails over the fence to each other. And the people that care about you will always be there. It's like, okay, like, financially, do you need some support? Like, so, if you embrace that support, it will be there. And I think that in work and personal life, I think that's really important to surround yourself with that.
And it's good to be kind of reduced down to that kind of essential or bare minimum in a way that it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing that exists, that's here. Yeah, I must remember that. That's important.
Yeah, if we can survive that.
Yeah.
And especially, like, as you said, like learning what is important to your life. Okay, food, like, a bed, sunshine.
Good pair of shoes.
Yeah, so all of those essentials, and love and support. Yeah, and the amount of times where you're like, oh God, I've got nothing to do today, but then finding like absolute joy in like, having a Zoom chat with your friends, like over a virtual dinner, like, how many people are still doing that now, but have fun memories of like what they were able to do, or what they deemed as like, yeah, that was really important.
Yeah, it seems like the pendulum's kind of swung back now from, the second that we were outside, everyone was like, what COVID, what lockdown, and now everyone's going, oh, it's horrible out here. Wasn't lockdown great?
So true. So true. I mean, I would hate for it to happen again, but there's that small part of me that's like, yeah, I would totally happily spend my week in the garden reading and hanging out with my cat. And yeah.
So more and more of us have to do social media for our work. For you, I mean, I assume you have to create content, put it out there. How much time do you spend on that? And do you see a good return on investment from it? Or is it more just one of those, I should do this kind of thing?
No, definitely. I'm torn, because holistic brain is just like, oh, definitely social media is bad, just don't. But I think that it should be embraced, and you should look at it as like, don't be a scroller. Don't spend your energy looking at what other people are doing, but use it as an essential tool of, I mean, decades ago, everybody was listed in the yellow pages or white pages or whatever. I don't know what it was here.
Yellow pages.
So, it's exactly the same, but just a different platform. So I actually love social media, but I don't look at what anyone else is doing really, unless it's like people or companies that I'm supporting. And like, I like their positive, lovely message, and like I will then share it on to others. But my bullying online was Facebook. So, and I recently had my Facebook hacked. So Facebook isn't an option for me. But my business is definitely based off word of mouth, Google business page, which I have no idea why everyone doesn't have a Google business page. It's free, it's quick, you set it up, there's your website. You don't have to pay anything.
I've talked to other people, well, not on the podcast, but other people who said, I don't bother with any social media, just it's all on Google My Business. All my clients come through there.
Yeah. So most of my new leads would be Google Business, word of mouth, and Instagram. And I don't think I could survive without the two social medias. Like word of mouth is great, but those word of mouth still need to share a link or to have that visual of like what that person's going to expect. So, and I do think that social media allows us to, if we acknowledge this, especially people love to feel like it's a personal, like they're seeing the person's personality. So instead of saying, hey, I'm a house painter, this is my price, this is my work, they want to get to know you. They want to like connect, and like even if they just see your face or hear your voice, or you know, you inject some sort of personality or quirk that you have, people love that and connect to that, and that people want to book that. They don't want to book a house painter, they want to book Alan the Fabulous, you know. So I think that social media definitely allows us to show who we are and like what you're getting, not the actual service. Because I know that, you know, there is a plethora of massage therapists in Leeds, but I know I'm busy because I offer my personality, but it's my space, and they can visually see that on Instagram and Google. It's, you know, it's a very green space, it's very calming, it's like lit lovely, there's loads of plants and there's music, and I think, you know, for people to know that they're buying the package, not the physical, I'm just going to book a massage. That's, you know, it's not just massage. So I think that social media is essential for you to portray everything about you and what you do and what you offer.
So I'm going to totally simplify this now because I'm getting bored of talking about Brexit. I'm going to keep doing it, but because all the answers are pretty much the same. We're like, there's no difference, or it's made everything worse. So has Brexit changed your business at all?
So if I was still doing what I was doing before, then absolutely, because I did maybe 6 trips to Europe to work. And yeah, it would have massively affected shows and performance and getting visas and getting paid less and all of that. But I haven't yet worked in Europe. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect, but obviously currently hasn't affected me at all, really. I mean, yes, prices have gone up for massage oil or the products that I use, but I mean, things change. You just have to like go with the flow and adapt.
And you can't blame it all on Brexit either, because we had the COVID, so people are kind of
and you know, there's going to be something else, and then you're going to have to adapt to that. So yeah, I just I mean, you know, it's upsetting. I prefer to be still connected with Europe, but yeah, as a whole, you just have to move on and do what you do.
Climate change, obviously, I would imagine that's on your radar. You know, so can you do anything in your work, or are you already in your work doing something to help with change, adaptation, mitigation, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's on my mind daily. I think it's the only thing that gets me upset and angry, to be honest. I recently had someone stay with me who worked in sustainability, but was the least sustainable person I've ever met. And yeah, I think I personally get frustrated. So I think my motto is like, if everybody did a little bit, the world would be a massively better place for it, instead of like very few people doing everything perfectly. So yeah, I think that if I can do whatever I can, like, you know, I definitely have loads of plants in my house and plant wherever I can. You know, I think recycling is amazing, but you know, the percentage that recyclables get recycled, it's better to try not to actually use anything that's and I don't think, off the top of my head, like, I don't think, without being aware, that I buy anything that's one use. You know, I use glass containers where I can. I do lots of festivals for massage. So I always have my reusable coffee, my water, and biodegradable massage bedding. So yeah, absolutely. And I'm very grateful that every festival I've ever worked at has a massive structure in place to make sure that it is sustainable as much as possible. So we are combating climate change as much as we can with festival work. And I think that is massively important. But it amazes me going into a takeaway. And sometimes I do try and remember my like containers to take into a takeaway to get my food. And I think that COVID stopped a lot of people being able to use your own, like, bring containers or bring your cups. But yeah, it still amazes me that there's takeaways in Leeds that still use styrofoam for packaging. It's like, how is this allowed? And yeah, if anyone can refuse that and just, you know, get them to put it in paper or take your own container. It's like such an easy thing to do. Yeah, but yeah, just constantly like being aware of the situation, talking about it, I think is massively important. And just doing what you can, like using less water, you know, making sure that you start a compost, and, you know, get on board. Like, if your street doesn't have a WhatsApp like group like I do, then start one, and, you know, find out if somebody's got a compost bin in their garden. Could you put your food waste in there? Or, like, you know, what can you do? Like, you know, join Olio, give some stuff away for free. Make sure you're not just throwing everything into the bin, or taking stuff to the tip. There is so many little things that we can do to make a massive big change.
Is there anything that's like, well, we've got to burn coal because that's how you make steel about your business? Is that, you know, there's things that have to happen and it's like, it's not great?
Yeah. So I use 100% organic oil, and the organic oil isn't available a particular massage oil that I use isn't available at my local refill station. So unfortunately, I have to get it, and it comes in plastic. And it annoys me that I can't use that to get refilled. But I do buy like the 5-litre thing. So I'm obviously buying less plastic and working out a way for me to reuse that empty 5-litre. And thankfully, like, you know, when I just started out, I'm like, what do I do with the leftover oil? Because it's just like, oh. But now I don't have any waste in the oil at all, and it's amazing for the skin. It is absorbed, so yeah, that's another positive. But consumables, I'm just trying to think of anything else.
I mean, it's a low impact kind of industry anyway. I mean, and it's therapeutic, it's locally based because you have to be there in person. It's not like you can do a virtual massage.
Well, maybe one day AI science we'll discover something.
Well, maybe like an ASMR. Is that the right way around?
Yeah.
So if you could change any 3 things about your job, considering that you have changed everything about your work recently. If you could change any 3 things about your job, you can be fantastic, you can be pragmatic, or you can say everything's perfect, anywhere in between on the scale. What would you change?
What I'm trying to implement is, I mean, it's quite a physically and emotionally draining job, and I am very grateful that I'm able to offer that. But doing the meditation teaching will balance the physical and being able to sit there and not use my hands as much during my working week. I'm very much looking forward to that as well. I mean, I believe that the world is full of endless possibilities and nothing is impossible. But realistically, if I could treat and heal and be an influence in more people's lives, then that would be amazing. But I'm not sure I can change that. And heating would be a massive, if I could change the heating situation, because you really do have to be, I mean, we've all had a massage where it's not very warm room and you're like, you stiffen up because you're not comfortable or you're not warm. So yeah, my room is very warm. It's like doing hot yoga for me while I'm massaging. But yeah, it softens and relaxes the muscles instantly if you are warm and comfortable. But yeah, my heating bill is huge.
What about?
So yeah, if I could, definitely I would.
What about on hot days? How was it for the hot day? Did you just not work, or were you kind of like, this is perfect actually, and we just need to cool it a bit? Or
yeah, I don't know if I've ever like maybe had a window slightly open on a hot day. But the electric blanket is still on. And then the third one, which I'm trying to implement now, is having that physical work balance with the meditation teaching, so I can kind of, for me, just balance out the physical work with the hands.
Let's come back to that. Let's do the UBI and then we'll kind of come back to, I want to kind of talk to you about work-life balance and kind of finding what is right and how much is right. But yeah, so on the UBI front, if there was a universal basic income, everyone gets an amount of money, hopefully enough to live. How would that change things for you? Would you still do what you're doing now? Would you do something else? Would you do more or less of it? Like, how would it change things?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely be on the same path. Potentially maybe find somehow where I could volunteer more, or you know, if we're all being paid no matter what we do, then yes, I mean, ideally I would love to offer free massage to every single person in Leeds. I think that would be amazing. Yeah, I think that ideal scenario of building more of a community feel might actually like work in that scenario of you know, we aren't trying to be richer than the next person, and we can all work together and do what we all love. Then kind of a bit of a utopia, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there've been natural differentiation. Some people would, for various motivation reasons, whether it's just because they can or because they have to, because you have we're often thinking of work in this kind of abstract, hermetically sealed way, like it's this thing that exists outside of it, and you just go and you do this thing, and that it's kind of imagined at a constant rate, because if you're looking at the spreadsheets and stuff, it's kind of like how many hours, and but like we've said, it's all ebbs and flows. We're not machines. We can't output at a constant rate.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go hard, and then we'll like drop down, and then we'll like scale back up again, and then it'll fade down again.
Is balance that out, because when they've had enough, we get sick. And it's like forced kind of like, you need to stop, you need to pause, you need to do nothing. So yeah, I agree. It's exactly the same.
And when you've got plenty to do, other people will get sick, and you'll have to go and care for them, or you'll have to go and support them, or
Yes.
So yeah. So let's have a little bit of I've done most of my questions there. Like, we can cover anything else if you want to kind of go back to anything that we've missed. But yeah, what do you think what's the perfect amount of work for you, do you think? And I want to kind of start opening up this discussion about work and leisure, because for a long time, like, to me, they feel like categories like left and right that have just completely disintegrated.
Yeah.
And they're not really there anymore. And I think that we need to, because that distinction between work and leisure, for me, very much comes out the union movement, and that sort of 8 hours work, 8 hours leisure, 8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
And I think in that world, like, there is a total blurring between work and leisure now, because a lot of leisure's work, isn't it? It's like, the 50 movies you've got to watch, the 50 albums you've got to listen to, the 50 plays, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it just reminded me of something as well. Yeah, I'm great at giving advice on like work-life balance. But it's been self-employed. It's been drilled into me for so many years that you are on 24/7. So if you've got your own business, you're answering an email at 10 p.m. at night. You're like up at 7 a.m. to do that business meeting on the other side of the world. Yeah, and I'm very good at telling people it's not what you should do. Like, it's really important for us to really focus on, like, we're all going to die. What do we want to look back and go, oh yeah, I did 48 hours of work this week? No, like, what do we want to do? Like, whatever that brings you joy and health is like the utmost importance. Yes, of course, we need to make money to like pay for the essentials, but working out a way that you can do that, so you are definitely working the least you possibly can to be able to enjoy the life. You don't have to work the first 50 years of your life to then be comfortable, to then go travel, to then enjoy life, to then get an allotment. Like, do it now and enjoy it. Whatever is in your bank is not the most important thing. I do think that having moments with people that we love, or even if that's yourself, like just having adventures, experiences, and creating things. And yes, I believe, as you said, Simon, that sometimes what gives you joy and leisure can sometimes be work, and vice versa. And I think that that's completely, like, most days I don't see what I do as work. Like, I get joy out of making people feel better, or feel calmer, or able to walk down the stairs with ease. Like, so again, you've just got to work out what's right for you. And yes, some weeks I might work a little bit too much, but then other weeks my body's like, actually, come on, put those boundaries in again and go, oh, I'm going to take 3 or 4 days off this week, because my body and my soul need that rest. I'm tired. I'm lacking the energy. What can I do to have that relaxation, or that, take myself out for dinner, or go for a walk. And what you said reminded me of, I was just looking it up to see who created this general rule. It was a neuroscientist or a psychiatrist that came up with the 25-3 rule. I think I discovered this mid-lockdown, and it massively impacted me on the research that's been done behind it. And the idea is that every day you spend 20 minutes outside, whether that is walking around the block or going to your local park or driving somewhere to spend that 20 minutes outside in your favorite space. And then 5 hours each month spent in nature. So go to a forest or a national park or a lake and sit down and, you know, read. Or, I mean, you don't have to be exercising, but just be in nature for five hours once a month.
Be in the real world.
Yeah. And it's like, it's the vitamin D, it's the fresh air. And then the last one is 3 days, try and go off grid per year. So 3 days camping, leave your phone, leave your laptop, don't take it. Or, you know, I guess if you cannot fathom that amount of time away, like make sure you have no internet and maybe watch a movie in those 3 days on your computer. But absolutely no scrolling, no texting. No, well, if you can, no screen time for 3 days. And you know, again, even if you can't manage that, if you can't camp, you don't like camping, then, you know, book a hotel, but just don't look at a screen, don't use technology for 3 days, or stay at home if you can't even afford that. But unplug everything and, you know, and still stick to that 20 minutes a day or 5 hours a day in nature in that 3 days. But yeah, the 25-3 rule, yeah, I love it. Yeah, 3 days off grid is like, I mean, it makes me smile, like just thinking about it. Like, you know, I love just turning everything off, and I love camping. So yeah, it's just, yeah, embrace it, everybody. 3 days. And I think, you know, it's that, you know, the argument before COVID was, well, you can't work from home because this can't happen. And you definitely need to be in an office. And it's like, guess what? We don't need to be in an office. It does work. To then going, do you know what? 3 days with no like screens, no technology, even no electricity, it wouldn't kill us. We'll survive.
So I'm going to pass it over to you if there's anything that we haven't talked about or anything that you want to come back to kind of discuss. So happy to.
I think just a fond little memory of I recently went to a retreat with Deepak Chopra, and a friend of mine who I met on this retreat said to me, she's like, you know what? I don't think Deepak Chopra is passing his knowledge on to anyone. I just, you know, there's no evidence that, you know, he's getting older, but like there's no one in place that's going to take over the Deepak Chopra Foundation. And then on stage, like moments after, he said something about like, you know, again, you know, technology is not great, but we need to embrace and work out how we can use it to our advantage and create better things, or heal people, or like, you know, save the planet. And so how do we use that to do good? And then he smiled and he said, oh, there'll be a little AI Deepak teaching, you know, in the future. And it's like that, there you go. He's not passing on because he's going to still exist in the meta.
Well, yeah. If you write enough stuff now, then yeah.
I mean, he has got 90 books, so he's done. Yes.
Yeah. Just write things, kids. Write things on the internet and influence the future forever. Do you think you would have got there or got to where you are now without that kind of crisis, that intervention kind of was necessary for the change to happen? Because you said you were kind of thinking about it before.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, because without the online bullying, without COVID, some other thing would have happened. I do have faith that, like, you know, the intention was there even if I wasn't aware of it. So somehow the universe would have put this block or would have put this trauma in my way to teach me, wait a second, like, you might enjoy what you're doing, but you've missed the signs that you've had a few, like, you know, like major illnesses, or like, you know, you're at breaking point. We've shown you these signs to say maybe this isn't the right path. So I think something else would have come along. It might have taken me a lot longer to get to where I am, but yeah, I do think that, you know, people stuck in an office with a job they hate, they're also getting those signs that it's not the right thing, but they're just not ready to listen to, you know, oh, I've got flu for the 6th time this year and I hate my job. And yeah, I think that those are little things of like, well, you know, we're showing you that, like, here's the opportunity to, like, what do you want to do? But yeah, we only get to that point when it's meant to be, or when we are ready to be open and ready to listen to that.
Yeah, I think ready to be listened, I think, is key, because you know, I know a lot of people who stayed in sectors or roles way longer than they should have.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I've walked out of so many jobs, like, literally. And because I started working in the 90s, I was always like, well, there's always jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being like early 20s going, well, I'm not worried about getting a job because there was something will just, and same with houses, like, oh, why would you worry about, like, where you're going to rent? Like, something will just pop up.
So thinking of, you know, these two careers,
Mm.
who owns your work? And do you own your work?
I've contemplated this quite a lot. So when and recently, because an interesting thing happened recently as well. So when I was performing and producing shows, intellectual property, I mean, it's a very tricky law to get your head around, and I still don't fully understand it. But it would frustrate me a lot as well. Like, it was my ego of, like, you know, no, this belongs to me. This is mine. This is my intellectual property. Like, how can someone use what I do? So there was a couple of situations. So one that would happen frequently is a photographer would come and take a photo of me or my show, and would use that in the national newspaper, and we wouldn't get a credit, or they would use it to advertise something else. And it's just like, how can they do that? Because that is my image.
Yeah.
But it's
they own the copyright of the photo. Yeah.
They're the photographer, they're the artist, it is their copyright. It's got nothing to do with me. But he should have made you sign a release form to clear your rights. Yeah, so there is, like, that loophole of, like, yes, it's my image, so that I have some claim on that. But you know, if it's in a public place or a venue where it says, you know, if in here you give up rights to your image or
you're a free marketing prop.
yeah, it is a tricky one, because I've had companies and individuals take advantage and make money out of my image. And it's frustrating, especially, like, I wanted to control the situation for so long with video. Like, I really was anti, like, photos. I kind of were like, got used to of like, it's a photo. But having my work on video enabled other people to copy that work. And yet intellectual property bothered me in that sense, because I had no control over video, therefore somebody else could go and do that, like the same act, or produce the same show. And it took me a long time to learn to let go of that, and again come back to let them go and copy, because it's not their work. And the only person, again, you should be comparing, you're going to do it better than they are, always. So let them at it. Like, if they do well, their success might be short-lived, because it's an action or a reaction to like a stolen property. So it's going to come back on them. That it's down the line someone else will do the same thing to them, or like stop worrying about like what is out of your control. Like create, give, do what you are meant to do. Don't worry about anything else. Just try and be your better self. And so in the arts industry, you can take it personally, because that is like basically like painting a picture that's taken you a year to create, and someone else just printing it on Redbubble and selling it on a t-shirt. I'm making money out of it. You're like, how is this possible? But in the end, just let it go, or sue them.
And also someone's always making money off you, you know?
Definitely, yeah.
And ideally you're making money off other people.
The concept of Ayurveda, it's not mine. I don't own it. I learnt the technique off a teacher in Leeds, and she learnt it off a teacher who had originated from in Pune in India. I have no rights to that. And I guarantee I don't do it exactly how that teacher in India, like I've made it my own to some extent. And we don't own anything, and everything has been done before. So you just have to accept that you're creating and giving from your essence. So just being as genuine and authentic as you can, and accepting money for that authenticity, I think, is the exchange. And I think that that's all you need to focus on. And of course, we still have to kind of remind ourselves of that, because recently, again, I did a festival 2 years ago, and my photo massaging was taken there, and now is for a festival that I won't mention, but is now one of the main images to promote massaging. Wait a second, I'm not going to be working for that agency. I never gave them rights to use my photo, and it's a floor massage. So I'm like, are you false advertising? Because are you going to be offering like floor massage? Yeah, it's very interesting. So I think I did comment maybe about you permission to use this photo, because you know that it's me, and I definitely haven't given you permission to use it. But in the end, you just have to smile and just go, well, again, okay.
How many times have you done like jobs where you got a salary or a paycheck or whatever? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, so I've worked for a record company, a couple of record stores.
Did it just put you off entirely? You were kind of, it's too regimented, too formulaic.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of 9-to-5 routine. I don't think it's healthy, but I don't think self-employed 24/7 is healthy either, because no matter no matter what boundaries you put in place, I guarantee if somebody emails you or Instagrams you, you might not respond, but you'll probably still read it at midnight. So yeah, I think the struggle is real to find that work-life balance in both scenarios. But I know from personal experience, when I was working for a company, I would dream about that job, or like counting the cash at the end of the day, or what I needed to do the next day. It would constantly be in my sleep, and it was like, this is not good, you know. And I don't think I've ever dreamt about massage in my sleep. So I'm like, maybe I'm onto something good here. I definitely dreamt about nightmare situations in shows, or the host, you know, falling over or getting sick or not showing up. But I mean, the show always, and we did have nightmares like that constantly. In the entertainment industry, it happens, but no one knows because the show goes on. But yeah, I definitely did dream about tricky situations, or people that just weren't very nice to work with. Yeah, it's an interesting one, that one.
It's obviously fairly close still, but I mean, it hasn't spoilt that time entirely, has it? I mean, you it sounds like you still have fond memories of that career and the work that you did and so on.
Absolutely, like, you know, and just again, I think it brings it back to what I value most in life is having moments and experiences, and you know, they don't all have to be joy. Like, some of them are like, you know, like tragic moments that you look back on and you can laugh at them now because it was just like, oh my God, as if that happened. It definitely happened. You know, like in Sydney, well, in Australia, I was doing a show in Wollongong one night. It finished maybe around the midnight by the time we packed up and bumped out the show. It would be around 1. We had to drive back to Sydney. That would be about 2 a.m. Then we had a show the following night in Byron Bay. And so I drove, and my 2 fellow production team were in the car asleep the entire way. And so I drove from 2 a.m. in the morning up the coast, and I think it was like an 11-hour drive. We got to the hotel in time for me to literally check into the hotel, have a shower, and then go bump in the next show. No sleep, just get on with it, do the show, and then go out and party afterwards. And I mean, it's just like, oh my God, how did I do that? But yeah, there's definitely fun memories of, like, you know, driving from Perth to Adelaide Fringe in a second-hand van with no air conditioning. Yeah, an experience. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this. Obviously, as I said to you at the beginning, we don't, you know, if you don't want to talk about anything, you don't have to. But maybe touch a little bit, because you know, you mentioned as well that you came into the work via a faith route. So was that something that was always important to your work, or is that something that has become important? Like, do you now feel that this is like a vocation? Is this like something you were heading towards that you found, or is this just, this is work and this is a thing that you do, that you believe in and you practice, and it's, you know, it helps you and you want to help other people with it? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be you know, like the bright burning path or whatever. It can just be, this is a thing. So yeah. What's your approach with that?
Yeah, I think that yeah, the more, I mean, Deepak Chopra as a teacher and a mentor has had a very heavy influence on my personal life and my work life, and more and more I'm like, I see these what we call like synchronicities, like when you think about something and then it just happens, and you're like, wow, like, but then I'm like, but not wow, because of course it happens, right? Like it's like I'm manifesting it, so why am I going to be surprised when it happens? Because it's meant to be, right? So I think that this is where I'm meant to be, and this is how I can serve people. And I didn't really think much about it in my 20s, possibly 30s as well. I know that it was there, but like discovering like your life purpose or your dharma, or what are you meant to do, or what do you want to do? It just kind of happened to me, but like looking back, you're like, yeah, of course, because I knew that that's where I was heading to. And so just trusting in that instinct that in here we know, and the more reflection that we do, the more it will present itself. I definitely is a big aspect of my work and my personal life, of like constantly in meditation of, okay, so what is it that I want? What is my soul purpose? How is it that I can serve the world and other people? So for me right now, this is how I can serve, and this is what my purpose is. And in the very near future, I think teaching people how to meditate is definitely like a big thing of like, I want to do that because it's how I can serve people, because I know what effect it's had on my own life. And but in a year or 2 years or 5 years, who knows what that's going to be. It might be exactly the same thing. If it still brings me joy, which I know that it is going to, and it probably will be, still in 5 years, but I might find like a little third or fourth path as well that still is my purpose, but it might be something different as well. So
is it something that's kind of grown over time and developed?
Definitely, looking back, you're like, well, it was always there. So definitely it feels like it's organic. But I think there's light bulb moments or epiphanies every now and then of like, when I met Deepak for the first time, it's like, oh my gosh. Like,
was that before you started the business, or was that like you started the business and then became a student? Or
yeah, so I mean, I've always followed Deepak Chopra. I think he is a very wise and beautiful man. Yeah, the connection was from, I had been given this gift of learning meditation 10 years ago. And sometimes you don't realize like what that's doing as the years progress, or days progress. Like it's working in here and in here and wherever. And but then like if you just kind of glance back, you're like, oh yeah, that kind of led me to this. And then I knew that I wanted to be a meditation teacher for quite some time. But it's like, oh, who do I want to learn off? And I've been following the Transcendental Meditation Foundation for quite some time. I'm a massive David Lynch fan, so that was always like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a TM teacher. But there's something really, and Deepak Chopra actually, I'm not sure if you can quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that he started the Transcendental Meditation movement with possibly one or two other people. But then he left the foundation to go down more of a science and doctor path for a while, and then came back to it and then started the Chopra Foundation. And I love his teachings. So I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna learn teacher meditation through Deepak Chopra. And then when I'd started the course, they advertised that they were doing a retreat. And I was like, of course I want to go on the retreat. It's very weird. And I think that, you know, COVID gave us a sense of that, like learning or watching online, you're like, it feels like it's great and you learn, but you have this desire to actually meet that teacher in real life, or somebody that you've been watching on Zoom for a while.
Especially with something like that, I think, because it's, I mean, okay, it's metaphysical on levels, but it's that trying to be in the real, you know, like, because all humans have done religious things forever. And it's that kind of, but I want to meet this person. It's not just about the words or the processes. It's about the spiritual being, for want of a better term. Yeah.
But it was more than Deepak himself. Like, it was like online, you're learning from at least 4 teachers who work within the foundation, and they were all at this retreat. So I was like, of course I want to go meet them. So you can't, like, you can't like go, well, you've taught me all of this knowledge and I will never meet you in my life. Like, it just feels weird. So yes, during the course and during the retreat, there were like moments of like, I know I've heard that before in my life, but right now I'm just like, bing, oh my goodness, yes, that's like an epiphany, or like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you know, I now understand that more. And so, I mean, you can call it whatever, like, if it's like a glimpse to spiritual enlightenment, or a glimpse of self-discovery, or whatever, there's definitely been those moments, more so in the last 10 years since I've been meditating than any other time. But further back from meditating, you're like, yeah, this was leading me here. So yeah.
Okay, I've got one more question. I want you to kind of think about it and just think about what you do in the context of performance. Are you performing? Is this a role? And you know, where do you begin and where does the role begin? Or is it, are you the role? Are you playing yourself? Finally playing myself at last.
This, you should keep it. This is a really good question. From my knowledge, we are all playing a role. And this is deep. This is good. So I'll say, in my previous life, when I was performing, it was a completely different person. You know, she had a different name, which, you know, some people might know me by, but it was almost opposite to who I am. And I'm very proud of her, but she only happened on stage or networking. And it was it's a form of art. Like, so I created her, and that was my art of, like, you know, maybe this little kind of part of me that I gave a bigger personality, like a shadow self, or a small version of me that I created on stage that became larger than life. Like, she had way more confidence than I have, or way more sass, or, you know, I never enjoyed public speaking, and I was thrown into radio interviews or hosting on stage, and I can't do this, but that other person definitely can. So I think that, yeah, for sure, 2 separate people, definitely not me. And, you know, she might have like come into my real life, but I probably would say, I mean, of course she's part of me, but she was only ever me when I used her name, if that makes sense. But now I think that no matter what anyone does, we are still playing a role. Like, this is the movie of our life, right? So we choose what archetype that we want to be. And it might be a warrior one day and a goddess the next, or an intellect one day, or an adventurer. So I do think that we are role playing. Some people are just role playing for what they think other people want of them. And now, hopefully, I'm role playing the role that I want to be, that is me. But yeah, I definitely think that it's who we choose to be as an actor.
Thank you again to Sarah Jayne for being my guest. Thanks again to all my guests, and thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. Some notices for this week. We're going for it, listeners. The gauntlet is going down. I have the interviews and probably just about have the time and the financial resources for this challenge. As usual, my crisis is an energy and motivation one. So what am I going to do? I'm going to run to the 100. I'm going to get 100 episodes published before Western Studios' birthday on the 5th of October. On the way to this goal, I want to smash the 3,000 downloads and 2,000 unique downloads for working hours, as well as getting that first 100 episodes published. So if you can go back and listen to an episode that you liked or an episode that you've not heard, that would be a massive help for me on the way to this goal. If you can share the show and get me a listener, a guest, or a financial supporter, or even all three, or any combination thereof, then all of those listeners are instant 5 gold star getting #1 fans and will win my favour. If you can't or don't want to do any of those, please consider just dropping me a follow on social, or a like, a share, or even something really exciting on social media, like a message. Say it's good, say it's great, say I need to try harder, say you hate it and I should give up, whatever. It's all engagement. It's all encouragement. Just some other quick notices before I go. So Western Studios, my podcast production company that I started to support this podcast, and is the other thing besides this podcast that I'm wasting the little money that I have on, has 2 great new podcasts out now. First off, there's the Leeds Business Podcast with Phil Fraser from Working Hours episode 22. The Leeds Business Podcast is available as both a video and an audio show. Western Studios Leeds has been editing the show, and Phil has put all his podcast guesting experiences to really good use with the hosting of his own show. He's had some amazing Leeds guests already, and I might be biased, but I think it's a really good show, and I think it can only get better. So go check out the Leeds Business Podcast wherever you get podcasts, or watch the video versions at youtube.com/@LeedsBusinessPodcast. Last and not even remotely least is a podcast that isn't for everyone, but one which I feel is an incredibly important and pioneering project, and I'm exceptionally proud and honoured to have been able to be a part of it. The Visible Project in Leeds works with survivors of child sexual abuse to improve health and well-being outcomes. The show is currently only available on YouTube, and it's called Visible Voices. Visible Voices is an important and brave work, and I feel that it's vital listening for anyone who works in healthcare or the voluntary sector in Leeds or anywhere else. It's not a grim or morose show, and the show is, from my narrow perspective, a pioneering one, starting a conversation that we as a society really need to have. You can find Visible Voices at youtube.com/@visiblevoicespodcast. Remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe to Western Studios' own Working Hours. That's the podcast you're hearing right now. If you liked hearing Working Hours, you'll love being on it. Failing that, just come back and hear more of it. Remember, if you're a loiner anywhere in the world, you can be my guest on Working Hours. Come and tell me about your day, your week, your whole career, your new startup, even your bankrupt business. What's that like? How's that to go through? Not good, I imagine. How are you getting through it? What are you going to do next? People with normal jobs and stereotypical jobs, people in non-line jobs. You're still seriously underrepresented on the show. Let people know that Leeds isn't just online roles and lecturers, also non-white male guests. There are none on working hours. This is not representative of Leeds at all by any measure. I have tried to get some representation on the show, not hard enough, yes. And I've also fucked up a couple of potential guest bookings. Just know I'm not gatekeeping, I'm just rubbish at securing guests and inviting guests. So come on, loiners, don't be afraid. There's nothing to fear except our ongoing social collapse, and that's ongoing, so who cares? Be on working hours. Ask yourself, what's the best that could happen? Okay, that's me. Work for peace, plan with kindness, and make space for a little gratitude in your life. Cheers, ears. Take care out there and be kind to each other, Leeds. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Follow Western Studios Leeds on Facebook at facebook.com/Western_Studios_Leeds and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Western Studios Leeds will help you realise your podcast for only £25 for an hour of podcast work. Need podcast production, recording, editing, or any podcast admin doing? Need it all doing? Do you want or need a podcast host or co-host for your podcast project? Then get in touch with Western Studios Leeds Limited. Email makemypodcast@western-studios.com to get your podcast made. I am available to third sector organisations, small to medium-sized businesses and individuals who want to make podcasts or create other digital audio content. Want to make some fundraising case studies? Want to show off your expertise in your field? Want some help creating your show and format, or just some support learning to podcast and getting going? Whatever your podcast needs, get in touch with Western Studios Leeds. Go to western-studios.com and use the contact page to drop me a message about either working hours or about your own podcast project.